And welcome back, everyone, to the Resurrection series. This comes from my own personal list, as me and my girlfriend are watching Record of Ragnarok in real time as they continue to bring out seasons. And I'm just like, screw it, I'm just gonna keep going along with that. So I just did, who did I do? I did Lu Bu for Pokemon earlier late last week. And now for Resurrection, we got Buddha, one of the best characters in Record of Ragnarok. Buddha is really unique character-wise, and we're looking at him from a hollow perspective, not a Zanpakuto perspective. But hypothetically, he'd make for a very interesting Zanpakuto. But that being said, and if we're looking at him as a personality, he does not match up with just about any hollows there are. He is very peaceful. He's very easygoing because he's reached enlightenment. He doesn't need the earthly pleasures. He still loves earthly pleasures like snacks and all that, but it's not the thing that defines him. He's the enlightened one. He is the Buddha. If we translate that to a hollow, I mean, that would make him a very unique hollow. Probably if we were to insert him as an Arrancar at any point in the series, he'd be probably closest to someone like a Stark, who was not a violent hollow at all. In fact, he was so strong that he had to separate his soul into two different parts. And even then, the hollows around him still ended up dying. I mean, his aspect of death was loneliness. So, I mean, what do we do with someone like Buddha? Well, remember, with a Arrancar hollow converting a character into that, we look at it, and it's one of the times we do actually convert their abilities as best we can into a hollow form. So first off, what is Buddha's mask like? Like, what does his mask look like? Looking at Buddha here, that would be difficult to say, although if you look carefully here, I'll make it a little bit bigger. His hair is up in that is in a bun, but it's got that kind of gold head ring around it, headband. I think you could maybe make that the mask, and like but it comes through his hair, and his hair just kind of naturally like that. So maybe that works. The type of hollow he used to be, though, that's difficult to pin down. He would have been a Vasto Lorde, no doubt about it, though. I think I'm also going to add at the end of these videos now what ranking of an Espada, if they were an Espada, I would make these characters, or if they were a Fraction, whose Fraction they'd be. So, with that said, the only thing we really have to go off of is those tusks he has, which is representative of the animal realm of, in Buddhist reincarnation. So maybe he'd look weirdly enough demonic looking, but in a less threatening way. I could see him being kind of like, maybe he has this weird red skin underneath his white armor. He's got the fangs, but he's very kind of chill and easygoing. Like, he can get along with most of the less devious Arrancar. He can get along with Stark. He can get along with Hollybell. He can get along with maybe Zomari a little bit, but and Ukiura, I suppose. But the other ones he just doesn't gel with. His Zanpakuto would be, or his hollow form would be Nirvana, which doesn't translate out into anything except Nirvana in Spanish. I think it'd be one of those rare exceptions to the rule. That being said, its release would be Enlighten. Now, before he releases his Resurrection, I have to comment on his weapon. He carries the special staff. Now, his staff actually releases a scroll that transforms the staff into a multitude of different weapons or combat arms, depending on what his personality is at, how his emotional state is. This is important because I don't even think that would be his power in his Resurrection. I think this might be kind of like a rare case of a hollow having an ability before they even release the Resurrection. It's not often we see that. In fact, it's very, very rare we see that with a Arrancar. But we do see it with Bodygon. He has a time dilation field around him even before he releases his Resurrection. Now, that time dilation field, I think, doesn't exist after he releases it, but he still has it. Hollybell even has the ability to kind of channel her Cero into her sword. I wouldn't call that a real ability per se, but it's at least kind of in that realm. So it's rare, but it is possible for a Arrancar to have an ability outside of that. I think right out of the gate, his Zanpakuto takes the form of the staff that rotates and changes its form based on his emotional state. So you can still have the sword, you can still have the scythe, the shield, the I'm trying to remember all of them off the top of my head here. There was one that was a different type of sword as well, if I remember correctly. There were many different ones. Um, so yeah, still you could have all of these depending on how he's fighting. But when he releases his Zanpakuto, I first off think that because he's the Enlightened One, Buddha, all the paths of reincarnation, all that, I think somehow in some way all of his sword's abilities do translate into his Resurrection. He somehow has access to the blade, the sword, the shield, and again, the couple other ones, all in his actual release command. His release command, or release, his release also could look something kind of akin to this, but instead you'd still have to have some of the white on him. I imagine like his mask kind of, maybe takes over his face a little bit, goes underneath his jawline, something like those lines, melds into the tusks in his mouth. But more to the point, he has the ability to, in essence, see into the future. Now, he does this by essentially reading your soul. His eyes create that lotus pattern. And he can basically just predict where your soul's, what the movements are going to be. And therefore, he has the ability to kind of precog has a minor precognition ability. It's not even minor. It has a pretty solid precognition ability. As long as you have a soul, he can read your movements. Now, so at that point, then it's all about, hold on, Buddha, Record of Ragnarok. I'm going to just, I'm going to get that actuals on that real quick. So, going to the wiki. Let's see here, supernatural abilities. Let's see, Buddhist realm empowerment. As the founder of Buddhism, he can draw from the 6 words of mankind, reincarnate, mankind, which can reincarnate into better known as 6 realms, one of each being protected by a canon. Oh, come on. I hate these. Buddhism empowerment. Shared fate. Due to his connection to the Pure Lands, Buddha has access to power principle of it's translated to shared fate. I'm not going to bother. Present within the word of Buddhism, which allows a person to bring out their full potential by entrusting their fate into another. Okay, there's that as well. Perfect enlightenment. That's the one I'm thinking of. Possesses a power known as, I'll try it just for sake of sake. Samyak Sambuhud Alaya Vinjana. A divine ability which only those who are enlightened can utilize. The ability allows Buddha to see the fluctuations in a creature's soul and their radiance enlighten their will before someone does something. Their soul performs this action in advance. Thus, Buddha can see what someone is able to do and predict a moment in the future. The moments Buddha sees can be witnessed enough times for him to know exactly what's going to happen. So again, it's more of a kind of read your emotions, predict, but it's almost exact. It is mirroring kind of. It does mirror something like Future Sight, essentially. By the way, there's also a axe, if I'm not mistaken, a kanobo or giant club, spike club, a halberd. Sorry, not an axe. The sword, as I mentioned. There is the shield. There's a wart scythe. Yeah, and there's probably a couple other ones as well. There might be a hammer and an axe in there too, but we don't see it in the actual fight. So, with that said, yeah, Buddha would essentially have a kind of future sight precog ability with his, enlightenment. Now, because of that, I could totally see him being even beyond someone like Stark in terms of power and abilities, just because of the nature of this ability. But because he's an enlightened Hollow, he would probably actually be like, "No, I'm good. I don't want to fight. Sorry, Aizen. Well, unless you want to try to make me, but I wouldn't recommend that." He'd probably even Aizen would be like, like his Kyoka Suigetsu would actually, that's a very good point, because this is reading the soul. His Kyoka Suigetsu really wouldn't work on Buddha. Yeah, he would still affect Buddha's senses to be sure, but with his ability to just read Aizen's soul, because Aizen's ability affects all 5 senses and even your ability to sense Ryatsu. But if he's just able to literally see the soul itself, then that bypasses, I think, Kyoka Suigetsu, at least in some manner. And that's why he'd be so adamant to get this guy on the side. He'd theoretically be stronger than Stark. And I'm pretty much done breaking it down, but Buddha would be, as converted it into an Arrancar Bleach character, would be insanely strong. What would I see? Where would he rank as in the Spada? I mean, look, if we're talking about Record of Ragnarok and converting all those guys into a Spada ranking, like that's difficult as hell. Like I could see, I mean, Zeus arguably is the strongest one. He is. So you mean he'd have to theoretically be the strongest of Spada, but I mean, Buddha's ability would make him insanely powerful. I think he's stronger than Poseidon. I think he's stronger than Thor, if I'm going to be honest. Definitely stronger than Shiva. Hercules is debatable, but I think he could probably beat Hercules. Who are some of the other ones I'm trying to think of? Would he beat Beelzebub? That's a humdinger of a question there. Because Beelzebub is super destructive. Could he beat Apollo? I mean, he'd be ranked if it were not making this a Spada ranking of like all the Record of Ragnarok gods, then I would put him probably near the top. Like he'd be at minimum number 2, but a good chance he'd be the number 1 Espada, or even if we're going with the zero Espada, just because of his ability to literally see the future. Like he would be powerful. But he'd also be a chill dude. I could also see him being one of the Iran cars that's still around during the 1,000-year Blood War arc after basically the Iran car arc. And just hanging out, chilling, occasionally helping out the good guys. And be like, why are you helping us? Why not? You guys are cool. I like you dudes. Want some snacks? Like, I can totally see him doing that. Anyway, I digress. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. What will you do for Buddha? Let me know in the comments below if you were to do anything. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.